Today I am sharing with you my most ambitious gouache painting yet. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna. I am a 36-year-old artist located in Utah, and today I'm painting a horse, which if you've been here before shouldn't surprise you at all. I'm going through the whole process in this video, starting with the thumbnail sketches that I did. I did 4 of them, trying to figure out exactly what posing I wanted for the horse in this painting. And they're pretty rough, but they definitely got the idea across that I wanted. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, if I'm being honest. I do want to say, though, that thumbnails are a very good idea. They're not something that I did a lot before the last year and a half, and I find more and more that it's really nice to do a few. I tend to end up with better work. And, you know, I often do end up going with the first one, but not always, and it's nice to flesh out the ideas more and come up with something better than you might have initially. As I was getting ready to do this painting, I decided I wanted to test the paper that I had. I'm just using what I have. I knew I wanted it to be an 11 by 14, so I cut some swatches out of sheets of these pages that I had in the size that I wanted and labeled them so I'd know what was what. And I have a Canson pad and a Strathmore pad, as you saw, and I pulled out all of the gouache that I have and acrylic and an acrylic gouache that I have and tested the red paint. I knew that I wanted the background, not background painting, just the background of this painting to be solid red. So here I'm testing my Turner gouache. This is my highest quality gouache. I have Turner gouache and Arteza, as you can see there. And really, I just wanted to compare the consistency, and the Arteza gouache was definitely streakier and a little bit harder to lay down. This is Arteza acrylic. I just wanted to compare. I'm just, I'm in a stage of I'm learning about my paint, I'm learning about pigments, I'm trying to get to know my paint, etc. So I actually did this stuff last year. This painting has been quite a process. I also had this Holbein acrylic gouache. I haven't actually done a painting with this yet, but I was curious about the consistency and such here, so I gave it a go. And honestly, I should have taken more notes because I don't remember the details. I do know that I ended up going with the Turner gouache, which was kind of what I expected would happen. I did want the painting to be light fast, so the professional gouache was definitely the way to go. That said, Arteza gouache actually has decent light fast ratings for student grade gouache. So if you are just kind of getting started with gouache and you want to try something that's inexpensive, Arteza is actually a really good option. I've seen other artists test it out too and compare it to other student grade gouaches, and it is a decent gouache for the price. Here I'm testing gold. So the only gold that I have, and like I said, I'm using what I have. I'm not buying new supplies unless I absolutely need them. I'm testing the metallic gold of the Arteza gouache here with a palette knife, and this here is what helped me choose my paper, which is interesting here. So I chose the Canson paper because it had more texture, which made the palette knife effect look better, and that's an integral part of the painting that I'm planning here. The Strathmore paper was too smooth and I couldn't get a good texture with the palette knife. The shiny red paint that you're seeing there is the acrylic. So gouache dries really matte, and acrylic is quite shiny. This is student grade acrylic. It may be more shiny than professional acrylic. I don't actually know. Unfortunately, I lost the footage or forgot to film it of me transferring the drawing to paper. So I did the drawing digitally, I believe, and then printed it off, and I used a light table to put it on the Canson paper. Yeah, I chose the first pose that I did with my thumbnail sketches. I liked this one. It had the effect that I wanted. And yeah, anyways, here I am doing the first layers of gouache. And so back to paper here. The texture of the paper does end up being quite nice for the gold effect that I'm looking for at the end. And I do use the Arteza, the student grade metallic gold color. It actually has a +3 light fastness rating, which is the highest for Arteza gouache, so it's decent. I would like to get a higher quality brand of metallic paint at some time in the future, but you know, use what you have. And it's decent, so yeah. But for everything else, I'm using Turner gouache. I only used, I think, 4 colors for this. So I used black and white, red, and I used a little bit of yellow ochre at the beginning when I was kind of experimenting. I used it a lot in the legs, but then I ended up going over that anyway. You'll see a little bit of yellow tone as I go in some spots, and yeah, but I ended up really just using red, black, and white for this painting. So really simple color palette. Paper texture. I feel that I struggled to do this painting because the paper is so textured, which is great for watercolor. I really like that for watercolor. I like there to be some blooming and just, you know, watercolor effects. I like to let watercolor do what it's going to do a little bit. I fully intended to go into this painting and do color tiling, and that is to lay the colors down next to each other instead of blending them. I had all the best intentions to do that, but the truth is I don't have a lot of practice with that. And I think that it's something that if I'm going to move forward with that and trying to utilize that style of painting in the future, it would be better to practice it with a direct reference, which I did not do here. This, I used several references and for different things. And, you know, I would like to perhaps in the future sell this painting. I definitely would probably want to sell prints of it, so I didn't want any copyright issues. So yeah, but if I'm going to practice color tiling, I think that I need a direct reference so that I can be more focused on mixing colors with something to guide me, and already knowing where they're supposed to go. Whereas here, I'm making this up as I go. So I was drawn back to what I am instinctively used to doing. And actually, it turned out great, so it's fine. This painting was a lot of slow buildup. I slowly built up values. I slowly built up color. I slowly carved out shadows and highlights, and I moved them around. So it definitely looks different from shot to shot because there was 10 hours of footage that I have condensed down to 30 minutes for the sake of my sanity and yours. Yeah, so it morphs as we go here. So just so you know, yeah, here I am adding some highlights, and the blending process for this painting, I at the beginning took a wet brush, just a really like a damp brush, and went over things to blend them. This isn't acrylic gouache, so it does lift a little bit. There you can see there's a little bit of yellow tone in my paint for this, the highlights and shadows there that I just did. But anyway, you'll be able to tell here and there that I just have water on the brush and I'm blending, and I found that was quite effective. especially for the first layers of paint. As I started to get into the later stages of the painting, I found that the paint lifted more, and it was better to go in with, see, that's just water. It was better to go in later with some paint on the brush, which meant that I had to be more aware of what color I had on the brush and what I was doing, and that helped to blend things out too. So yeah, this is I think like my 8th or something gouache painting. I don't know. I have not done a lot of gouache paintings. I think I'm still at less than 10, but I think I'm finally starting to get the hang of it. I had no comprehension, even starting this painting and having used gouache before. I had no comprehension of understanding the consistency that people describe, like when they say that it's melted butter or milk consistency. I never could quite grasp that, and I still don't think that I really can. Like for me, it just took trial and error and feeling it out. And yeah, so that's just been my approach. I can't tell you the consistency. I can't compare it to anything. It's just, this feels right, and I started to figure out what I needed at different points while I was working. So yeah, the paper texture got easier to deal with the more layers of paint that I had on the page. Where I really struggled with the texture was the background. I was really hoping to have a really flat, matte red background. It did end up kind of streaky, and that I found extremely frustrating. I'm not sure if it was me, if it was the paint, if it was the paper. It's something that I would like to experiment a little bit with in the future on like different pages and such. Yeah. Definitely my painting process, basically, actually just like all my art process at this point, is fly by the seat of my pants, try stuff and see what works. And in general, it's actually going great for me. So, you know, I have sped up some of the footage here and there because I didn't want to cut out tons and tons of what I did, but I also didn't want to make you sit here for an hour or two. And I didn't really want to do a voiceover for a video that long. Gouache, I'm sure that if you've been watching any art videos, you'll have heard this before, but in case you haven't, gouache tends to dry either darker or lighter than the color that you're seeing when it's wet, which is something that can be a little bit frustrating. I did find that my shadow colors, I kept doing them a little bit too light, but I wasn't super frustrated by it. I actually am okay with the slow buildup of values. I didn't know exactly what my end result was going to be, but I was okay with sort of feeling it out. It was an enjoyable process for the most part. Some days I struggled more than others, but I really did start to find a groove. When I first started, it was like, hadn't used gouache in a while, and that feeling of, what is this stuff? How does this even work? Like every time I start painting with gouache after a long break, I have like a transition period of remembering what I'm doing. Hopefully that will get less intense over time. Yeah, but it's definitely a tricky medium. But I feel anyway, for what I was going for, I did get the shadows that I wanted dark enough at the end. I did know, though, as I was moving through this process, that I wanted a quite intense reflected light, and I wanted the core shadow between the direct light and the reflected light to be the darkest shadow, other than like I forgot the word. Oh my gosh. The really dark shadow where like stuff like, between your fingertips when you're pressing them together, or when there's something setting on something else, you know what I'm talking about. And I feel very silly that I don't remember that word right now. But to be perfectly honest with you, I am having medication health issues as I'm transitioning, and my brain fog is really bad, so please forgive me. I obviously didn't speed all the footage up. I like to show people that it really does take quite a bit of time. Artwork is not a fast process for most people. And I think that having real-time footage is good so that people can understand that, it's not all fast and super easy. It's this one, especially for me, was quite a long process. I think that this took me a month once I actually started the painting. Obviously not all at once. I was working on other things and have a life, but this was quite a long process for me as far as artwork goes. Here I'm starting to add red in my shadows to anchor the horse in the background that I'm intending here, which is just flat red. So that bit was kind of the experimental first pass at that before I really got into it. I had a hard time with the face. I'm not really sure why. I've been drawing and painting horses all my life, and this isn't something I typically struggle with. I think what I had a hard time with was most gray horses have like a black muzzle, forgive me. And I didn't want that. I wanted this horse to be more of a pale gray, like a Lipizzaner, or like an older Lipizzaner, or an actual true white horse, which is extremely rare. And I did struggle to get the muzzle to stand out from the leg behind it. I went through different lighting scenarios a few times to get that right. Yeah, and there's a stage here where I really like it's right here. I really like how that looks, for the most part, especially that kind of arced bit coming off of the eye and the cheek. But I lost it later. Oh well. That's the interesting thing about filming your work and playing it back, is that you tend to see things that you sort of wish that you'd kept in, but you weren't really paying attention to while you were actually doing the painting. So yeah. Here's another bit of highlighting, and these I do blend, as you will see, and I quite like how this ended up looking. Another reference point that I used, besides a bunch of different photos for poses and color and shadow and stuff, was a couple pages in The Science of Creature Design by Terry Whitlatch. She has a whole chapter on horses, and there's a really lovely page with both the skeletal structure and the muscle structure of the horse on a spread, and I had that open a few times while I was working. The mane and tail, and I mostly show the tail here, were quite a challenge, especially since I painted them after I painted the limbs that were in the foreground. And yeah, sorry about the lighting for some of us. The metal clip made it very janky for certain shots. But anyway, it was a bit difficult to get the lighting scenario right on on the mane and tail, and it took me a lot of layers, and I didn't really want to cut that out, so I sped it up for you. I didn't keep all of the footage of the mane in. It was the same thing as this, and you know, redundancy is not always the best thing. I used a smaller flat for the first like passes, and then I used a little tiny round brush for details, but I did go back and forth quite a bit between those two brushes. And yeah, my cat thinks she was really helpful. She loves to get on my desk sometimes, and it shakes the whole setup, so yeah. I, at this point, felt like I couldn't get the light and shadows right as I was starting to get toward the finish line without finishing the background, because your values and colors are going to look different depending on what they're sitting next to. So I felt like I needed to go in and get this done. And I was quite frustrated with the first passes of red and how the gouache was layering in a way that I had not expected, especially because this is design gouache, and I was kind of under the impression that getting a flat matte area, even a large area, would be kind of a thing, and yet any place that I ended up going over older paint, there was definitely an obvious layer, and I had a hard time getting the consistency right. I feel like this is another time where I really started to experiment with consistency to see what would work for getting a large area painted without having too much dry brush issues. I didn't just use water, I used a watercolor medium that slows drying time. And I feel like that helped a little bit, but I also, if I ever do a painting like this again, and I don't need the paper texture for the palette knife situation, I will try a smoother paper, probably that Strathmore paper for now. I'll get fancier paper later in my life. I'll use smoother paper because I do feel like the gouache is probably going to go down better on it, but again, that's something I need to experiment with. I did find that using this fluffier brush did make a difference at like being able to lay down more paint and kind of unify all the paint that I had down already. So that did help. It's not perfect, especially the top left corner, I feel like, but it's better than it was. And here I really started to go in and add the reflected light in the shadows to really ground the horse in the background and make it look like it's part of the image, not just that it's floating in red space. Like, this is gonna be a thing with my paintings and stuff after I die. Like, I am a huge lover of the really obvious reflected light in shadows. And not necessarily in bright colors, but it's a thing that I like to do. So, such as, you know, Rembrandt and his specific face lighting, I guess. But yeah, I put the red in, the shadows, and then I darkened the core shadows so that, you know, my values wouldn't be in such a flat, short range. And I probably could have pushed it more, but honestly, I didn't like... It was hard to get it dark enough without it being straight black, and I wasn't... Yeah, I didn't want that. I didn't want so much straight black. Like, I was fine with it being there in the eye, the nostril, and the mouth. I do add a little bit later in some places, but not much. I didn't want it to distract from other things, so. This is the biggest gouache painting I've ever done. This is a 11 by 14 page. I have done a painting on a 9 by 12 page, but the painting was smaller than the paper. I had taped off a border, so this is my biggest gouache painting ever. And at first that was really intimidating. In the end, I'm really glad I did it. I really like it. Like, there's a lot that could probably be improved upon, but I learned so much while doing this painting. I figured out a lot about the texture and consistency of the paint and how to layer it, how to blend it. Yeah, it was definitely a learn as I go situation here, but I think it paid off. And here I'm just using a small round brush to add hair details. Yeah. I was not going for perfect realism for this painting. I wanted it to be kind of a surreal situation here, which is something I did a lot when I was in high school. I was very... It's not even that I thought about it consciously. It's just like if I was doodling and it wasn't characters, it ended up... A lot of my work ended up looking quite surrealist. So I guess I'm just going back to my roots. Horses and surrealism. The colors of this painting look kind of weird on camera. I did scan it and prep the image for possibly doing prints later, and that I got as close as I could to what it actually looks like. Yeah, but... Sorry, I forgot to film some of the footage, but yeah, here I am starting with the palette knife and stuff with the gold. This was the entire point of this painting. Like, this is what I wanted to do. This is why I did this. I wanted shiny gold, and here it is. I tried a different shaped knife first with that blurry footage that you saw and found that it wasn't working, so I went and got this one. And I had it already. It was just in my bag that I take to paint on my mural that I'm working on right now. So I went up and got it out of my bag. And it definitely worked a lot better. I also used a little detail brush to get closer to the edges of the horse. And so, yeah, I wanted some of the gold splashing, I guess, to be behind and some of it in front. Yeah, I don't like, this painting doesn't have any specific meaning. I just thought it would be pretty. The curtains are just blue. If I ever, like, I can't afford to do any prints right now. I would really like to in the future. I would love to do some really quality ones on watercolor paper perhaps, and then personalize some of those with gold paint or gold marker on the metallic gold that won't be quite as metallic in an actual print. But yeah, that's a someday situation there. Still, that'll be fun someday. Here's my signature, which I feel like I need to refine when I'm doing it with paint. After I signed it, I realized there were still a few areas that I wanted to add gold to ground that to the horse and such. But yeah, here it is, the final product. If you have made it this far, leave a horse emoji in the comment. Tell me what you think. Do you paint with gouache? Do you want to paint with gouache? Yeah. And of course, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you so much for being here. You can't know how much I appreciate it. Your support means so much to me. Also, thank you so much everybody for 500 subscribers. That's amazing. You're all wonderful. I will see you later. Bye.